Hello and welcome to Empowered to Thrive. I'm your host, Corinne Powell. So glad to have you here with me and happy to be able to spend this time with you. If you and I haven't met yet, I'm the owner of Change Radically. I give people a safe space to be able to come and talk about whatever is on their heart and mind, whatever's creating stress in their life, making it difficult to wake up each day and get through the days. In being able to share, then we help uncover what's going on below the surface. And I speak intuitively to their inner child. And by the end of the session, they start to feel a little bit lighter. Things start to feel a little bit more clear. Everything doesn't get fixed in 1 hour, but everything does start to feel a little different. And how much of a difference that makes. We're all going through life, we're experiencing the challenges and the stressors, but to get a relief from that, for things to feel a little bit easier for a little while is a gift. It's a gift all of us deserve to receive, and it's available to all of us. So, welcome, relax, exhale, and take a few minutes for yourself here with me. Today, I'm going to paint a picture for you and share what it's felt like to live in my body. Many of you are going to be able to relate. And I'm going to talk about a change that occurred in the last month, excuse me, and how it feels now and the contrast between the two. I was sharing this with a friend the other day and sharing it with a coach of mine, and they said, what made the difference? How did that shift happen? I said, I don't know. Sometimes I believe just doing the next thing, being on the journey, putting one foot in front of the other, practicing, using the tools, doing what we know is to our benefit will always have an effect. Sometimes we don't see the effect it's having until one moment in time, and then it feels like everything shifted, but it was gradually shifting all along the way. So that's what I chalk this up to. Having just been on the journey, doing the work, and then all of a sudden, it feels like, wow, what fell into place that wasn't there before? What shifted and moved? So let me paint that picture for you of how it's been to live in my body. And by living in my body, what I mean when I say that is just what it feels like, what the everyday experience is. I grew up in a home that was full of chaos and arguments, and there was so much stress. My mom was overwhelmed and depressed. She struggled with some other labels that the mental health community has. And I lived with a lot of stress around me and in my body. I lived in a constant state of fight or flight, freeze, fawn, all of them. I was physically hit. I was yelled at. I was sexually mistreated. I grew up in a religious community that was very suppressive to my true nature, my spirit. I grew up with a father figure who was passive. And in the moments when I needed his protection, he was more docile than I needed him to be. there is a healthy sense of anger and a protection that children need. If a child is being mistreated, they need to see an adult stand up and protect them. And on the other hand, children need to be in an environment that is helpful in them regulating their emotions. They need adults and parent figures to be able to co-regulate and model what it is to be able to go from a heightened state of emotions to a place of regulation. So it's all right to have heightened emotions, but are we able to get back to a baseline of regulation? Or is our baseline always a super depressive state or a very heightened state? Think rage, anxiety. So because the constant around me were these heightened states of emotions, I didn't learn a baseline of being at rest and knowing what it was to experience relaxing within a peaceful environment, laughing because everybody felt able to laugh. I learned very quickly to monitor the emotions around me and to help other people hopefully regulate when I was just a kid myself, not even knowing how to do it. I was helping to keep peace when no true peace was able to be found. So I lived in this constant state of fight, flight, freeze, which is shut down, immobility, fawn, which is the people pleasing elements that I did so well. And I married a man who had a pornography addiction. So we could call it a sexual addiction. And what I learned from that was that I also never felt safe in the relationship because with an addiction comes lying, because there's so much shame. We learn to lie when it's not safe to be honest. So, as a 6-year-old little boy, as a child, as a teenager, he learned that it wasn't safe to be honest, that the people around him couldn't comfortably handle the truth. Also, addictions in general are a result of not having the safe emotional connection we need. We turn to something else to try to soothe the ache we don't even know that we feel inside. And I say all this for information's sake, really. This isn't me excusing a behavior, rationalizing any choices that you or anyone else knows that people are making. But there are reasons. There are reasons those choices are made. And there's also ways out. There's always hope. Addictions can be stopped if the person who is the addict wants to stop. And it will take the hard work of being willing to look at what's underneath the surface. But that's something that we all need to be willing to do. If you ask me, there's something we all have to do to live our best life, to live a life that's enjoyable. So I went from living in one chaotic relationship with my family of origin to living in another chaotic relationship with my husband. I never felt safe. I always felt on guard, uneasy, questioning what's going on, what's he not telling me. Because I was living out of all of the other people's emotional states and their life experiences, I was not able to be regulated in my own body. I was constantly triggered. It takes such a toll on the nervous system. It's exhausting to the physical body. It's mentally exhausting. It changes the environment of the home because now my children feel my energy, which is I'm letting my energy be affected by these other people's choices. And I don't even know how I can stop it. I recognize it, but I don't know how to stop it. I want to feel like I can land and be safe, that I can be okay even if they're not okay, that I can be happy even if they're in crisis, that I can be at ease even if they're tense and anxious. But I didn't know how. And now there were many ways I was doing that. There were many ways I did know how. I had learned, I had walked it out, I had practiced a new pattern, I had found healing for my inner child, for my insides. But there are other ways I just hadn't. And that's why I started off by saying sometimes things seem to shift and you wonder, how did that happen? And I think sometimes it is an accumulation of all the other things you've been doing so faithfully for so long. So if you're listening and there's areas in your life and you're like, I've worked so hard, I want this to shift. I want to experience that change. I've heard other people say it's possible, but I don't have it yet. Keep doing what you're doing. It is making a difference. It is affecting the change you want, that you long for and you desire. Yes, keep on keeping on. That's what I say to myself, and I say it to you. I fully believe it. I believed it before I experienced the difference. And then every time I experience the difference, I believe it even more. So, living in a constant state of fight or flight, I knew I said it to myself many times and more so recently. I have to get out of this. I cannot keep living this way. I either need to remove myself from the relationship, which any of you listening for a while know I've considered divorce. We have spent periods of time where we changed the dynamic of our marriage relationship because it wasn't good for me to keep putting up with being lied to. Now, Evan's been on his own healing journey. He is in a better place than he's ever been. It's been progressively getting better. We're not living out of the same patterns we once did, but remember, if I believe that nothing's changed, I live with that story. I come in wondering every time, I don't believe I can believe him because of the past, because of the history we have. I live triggered because of the story I'm telling myself. But if I live out of the story that says he has been progressively changing, the patterns that used to be are not the same patterns today. He is not the same person he once was. He doesn't need to cope in the same way he used to cope because now he has a different environment to live in. It's safe, to be honest. If I believe all of that, I live out of that story. I don't actually have to live in a triggered state. But all of this boils down to m- me. This isn't about him. It's not about who my parents were. You had the parents you had, and you might feel that it really affected your life and the person you are. And I probably would wholeheartedly agree with you. But now you get to choose if who they are will forever affect you in the way it has been. Because recovery is possible, change is possible, healing is possible. The person you do life with right now is making whatever choices they're making. Remember that you're separate from them. You're affected by them, of course, but you get to choose what that will mean. So I came to this point where I said, I'm going to create a new practice. If I ask Evan how he's doing, and I don't believe him, no matter what his answer is, because I'm living out of the story that says, I can't trust him. He doesn't tell me the truth. I'll never know. He's lied to me so many times when I haven't known. I'll never know. If I live out of that story, his answer to me, no matter what it is, doesn't make a difference. I still stay stuck. So I determined I'm not going to ask him. I'm going to have that question pop in my head. How are you? Is everything okay? And I would pause and not actually ask the question, not say it out loud, and remind myself that I have a choice. I can believe everything is okay. I can believe it's not, but this is all my choice. I use this other example because it lined right up with the new practice I was making. One morning, I was driving with my kids to school, and I asked my almost 13-year-old, or I would often ask her if she'd washed her face. But here we are on the way to school. If she tells me she hasn't washed her face, is there anything we can do about it in that moment? No. But it creates some tension in our relationship. And then it goes on to, all right, well, let's do it when we get home. It's not productive. So I had the question, I wonder if my daughter washed her face. And I paused within myself and I said, I'm not going to ask her right now. If I want, I can ask when we get home later. And if she says no, we can get that done right then. But if she says no right now, there's nothing we can do about it. And I know she's going to be annoyed. And I'm going to be annoyed. So I just thought the question and paused and didn't ask it. Same situation with Evan. So I put this new practice in place and started living out of it. And after 2, 3 weeks, I realized, this has gotten a lot easier. My baseline is more peaceful. The picture that came to mind was this idea that I had been swimming upstream for so long and that was exhausting me. And now I was just floating, just on my back floating, not taking effort to float, just floating in the water. And it felt more restful. And it felt like the in between from swimming upstream, which wasn't productive. Now, I wasn't swimming to any final destination at this point because I didn't really know where that was going to take me or where to go. But as my coach reminded me when I brought this scenario up of like the mental picture of how it felt in my body, he said, but even though you're just floating, you are moving. You are moving with the water. There are things happening in this place. And that was so good for my soul to hear. I'm not staying stagnant right now. I might not know where I'm going. I'm resting in this place. It's an in-between place, but it's also a new place that my body hasn't known. I haven't lived in this place much. I've lived in that place of swimming upstream for a long time. I also know what it is to swim with the current, but not to ever get to a final destination, just to keep swimming. But this place of resting and floating, listening to the birds as I hear them, noticing the clouds in the sky, feeling the water, feeling the coolness of it, the movement of it, all of that is healing my soul, my body, my everything. So that's the place I'm in right now. As you've been listening, maybe you're wondering what's the conclusion of this? I'm kind of wondering too, but I don't know. I just know I wanted to share with you where I was and where I'm at because it's available to all of us. And because it feels starkly different and so much more peaceful. Like there's no fireworks going off. It doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, this is the euphoric high that I've known before. Some parts of the healing journey I really describe as a euphoric high, and they are. This just feels peaceful. It just feels like I'm going along and I'm just going along, and it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to navigate the relationships. It's a lot easier to have my children be dysregulated around me and for it to not feel like it's my own dysregulation, for it to not rub off on me, for me to be able to stand there, breathing steadily, feeling all right, just waiting for when they're able to come back to a baseline of just a baseline that doesn't feel so amped up for them. All right, I feel okay again. They have their big emotion. Things escalate and then they come back down to this place of, all right, I feel okay again. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm ready for the next thing. All right, the disappointment I felt, I was able to feel it, move through it. Now I'm okay with whatever we're doing, with whatever we're eating. To be able to stand by and just be a steady person for them in that moment feels easier. So, my hope is for you that if all you've known is that state of trauma, that fight, flight, freeze, fawn that we all know is our body's way of surviving. It's a skill to cope and to get through and to make it. It's necessary for the times we needed it. But is it necessary for right now? Is it supporting you and serving you right now in whatever environment you live in and the relationships you have? Perhaps it is. Perhaps it isn't. Reflect and consider that. Start to witness yourself as you go through your days. And continue to put one foot in front of the other and do the things you know are helping you out on your journey of life. And one day, more things will shift. And what once felt hard will get easier. And at that moment, feel the gratitude. Don't bypass it. If there's one thing I feel so often, it's gratitude. It's what I feel about this newness. It's what I feel often. I'm grateful. No, I don't know how it all happened, but I'm grateful. I'll sit and relish in it. No, it doesn't mean everything's all right. Everything's wonderful, I should say. It doesn't mean everything's wonderful. It doesn't mean everything's all better, that all my relationships are repaired, that everything's perfect. But I'm grateful because my inner world feels easier. My inner world feels more peaceful. And isn't that the greatest gift? No matter what's going on outside of us, externally, around us, if we can be in the middle of that and feel peace and feel safety within ourselves, even if there's not safety without of us, that is the greatest gift. And I do believe it's possible. I believed it was possible all along. But every time I experience it in a new way, in a new dimension, it solidifies that belief. It deepens that belief. So I hope that for you as well. If you have your own story you want to share around a topic like this, I would love to have you join me on the podcast so that others can hear your story. They can hear your experiences, how the healing journey is impacting you, the effect it's having, because it's going to have an effect on those listening. So please reach out to me in any way you know, or you can always send me an email, Corinne, Corinne, at changeradically.com. And I would love to have you join me on the show. Until we chat again, sending lots of love your way and lots of hope that you're going to experience the ease and the peace like you hear me describing. Now, if you already have it, I am so happy about that. So, so happy. I just know so often we're hurting and we're feeling alone in it and we're not sure it's ever going to get easier and it's ever going to pass. And I'm here to say it can. And I want to help you along the way if I'm able. So much love. I'll talk to you soon.